Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Blake Creamer, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Matt Larkin from Daily Faceoff for another edition of our ADP Battles. We're going to be breaking down 6 different draft day decisions, comparing players at similar spots in average draft position, and discussing who we take and why. If you're preparing for your fantasy drafts, this episode is going to give you some valuable perspective on the toughest calls you'll face on draft day. Let's get to biz. Oh, yeah, buddy. Matt, how you doing here? I got Matt Larkin from Daily Faceoff here. Really happy to have you, my man. How have you been here this summer?
Blake, I'm good, my friend. And, I've missed you. I've missed this annual exercise. It's sort of like we're two boxers and we are waiting for our next title fight every year. And you sort of feel the adrenaline building. And I'm ready to go head to head again, this annual tradition.
I know, damn it. Every time Matt and I have a battle, it's like that picture of Muhammad Ali when he knocked that guy down and he's just looking down at him, staring down with disdain. That's what happens after Matt just pummels me for a little bit. Right, Matt?
Well, it depends on which one of us is Sonny Liston in this equation. I guess
me. Okay, yeah, for the listeners to decide, and that's absolutely right. But it's great to see you, Matt. I was telling you offline here, big news day here in the NHL. It kind of snuck up on me. I've been doing so much content here that now I'm getting notifications out the wazoo. We got Pasta battling injury. Blackwood is week to week. Ingram's not going to be at training camp there in Utah. Like crazy stuff, is there any news that you've kind of seen come out in the last couple of days here that's particularly interesting to you? Maybe even in terms of fantasy, or just an interesting story you've seen?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Blackwood news is pretty actionable. It's something you have to watch really carefully, and maybe you want to add Scott Wedgwood to your stash list. In terms of just general injury news this offseason, the Matthew Tkachuk one was the most important, not just for his value, but I'm really hammering Mackie Samoskevich because I think he's going to be the beneficiary who gets a chance in the top 6. And to me, it's Samoskevich to the moon, and he's one of my favorite sleepers as a result.
I love that, buddy. I'm with you. We had a series here where we were looking at one player from each team as kind of like a deep sleeper, and Samoskevich was the one we had for Florida. And I was ready to go all in on the guy until they picked up like Brad Marchand, right? And then now his role, like he was healthy scratch in the playoffs, but that's a player that can do something for fantasy, especially if he's elevated up the lineup. And I think it's going to happen. We got Tkachuk resting till midseason apparently, so. Anyways, lots of fun stuff here, but we got to get to biz, man. All right, this is, again, the niceties. It's good until he just starts beating me mercilessly. That's not even mercilessly. Dang, I messed that word up. I'm nervous already, Matt. I just got lost in his eyes there. The man's got a beautiful head of hair. I mean, get on over to YouTube and check this man out, folks. All right. Sorry about that, Matt. All right, let's get into the first battle here. Hold on, I actually got visuals for this, Matt. You're gonna enjoy this. All right, see, there we go. Do you ever play NHL 95, Matt? You ever do that? I might be a bit young for it, but
oh no way, man! I'm in my 40s. This is my game. This is my jam, and you've transported me back to my childhood right now.
Oh, we're doing it, buddy. I love NHL 95 and 94, so it's a little throwback there. Anyways, we're getting to biz. It's an ADP battle. Let's do it. All right. First one we got to talk about here. We've done a lot of first round stuff here in our ADP battles, so I wanted to get into the second round and just a question that's coming up a lot in our Discord and out in those fantasy hockey streets. Pick 13, we got 2 elite defensemen here still on the board, Zach Werenski and Quinn Hughes. Who are you taking and why here at pick 13? It's the beginning of the second round.
I'm still going with Quinn Hughes here, despite the fact that Zach Werenski had a tremendous season last year. But you have to consider a few different things. One, Werenski, 3 years older than Quinn Hughes. And before last season's career year, which exceeded his career best by 25 points, by the way, he had missed double-digit games 5 seasons in a row. So the outlier is the healthy season, unfortunately. You have to price in some injury risk. And you also have to consider that an amazing ceiling season for Zach Werenski, that's a floor season for Quinn Hughes. He had 76 points in 68 games. Werenski had 82 and 81. So when one guy's best is another guy's worst, I think that gives you your answer. It's got to be Quinn Hughes. Yes, he's not a dominant player in banger formats, but he's getting the shot total up, and I just think he has a much higher floor.
Yeah, that's a really good piece, actually. That's hard to come back off of when you're like, yeah, this man's floor is this other man's ceiling. And you're like, yeah, that's actually true. But one of the things, I will make a case here for Zach Werenski. By the way, like both these players are amazing picks at pick 13. I love Quinn Hughes, don't get me wrong. But for fantasy purposes, I like Zach Werenski here, just for some of the things that he brings to the table here. And I know you mentioned that it's kind of an outlier season, him being healthy, and I'll buy that for sure, right? I don't necessarily draft for injuries, right? For exactly this reason, Zach Werenski, the guy played 81 games last year and went ballistic, and he was a big reason why I was in like the top 3 of a lot of my leagues, right? Because I had Zach Werenski on like 7 teams, so I don't like to be out on players for injury situations. So I'll preface that there, but this is Zach Werenski's a guy to me that's been bubbling under the surface for a long time, right? First, he just needs to be healthy, which he was last year. And second, he needs to have a coach that's actually going to loosen the reins and let this man cook, and also loosen the reins on some of the other offensive players there on Columbus. And Dean Evison did exactly that. Like when Werenski was out there with that top line, Monahan, Voronkov and Marchenko, like that was electric. That was the most efficient and highest scoring line at 5-on-5 in the season last year. That's crazy. Columbus was the best at something. Can you believe this, Matt?
It's true. And it is a very legitimate consideration, just the team situation. And that's something that Zach Werenski told me himself last year, that he said, hey, I know I'm having a great year, but you really have to look at all the guys around me. I have some of the best support I've ever had. And I think that's true. You look at the breakout of Kirill Marchenko, you look at the breakout of Adam Fantilli, who's really just getting started. Mm-hmm. This is getting much better. I think they're an ascendant franchise. I don't feel the same way about the Vancouver Canucks right now. I like the Blue Jackets prospects as a team overall, not prospects as in young kids, as in prospects of doing well next season. I like them better than I do Vancouver. So if you factor in team situation and the assist total that'll come with it, then I can see the argument for Werenski. I do have them close. I have Quinn Hughes as my D2, Werenski my D5.
I love that. Who do you have over Werenski in your rankings there?
I have Evan Bouchard and Rasmus Dahlin. Evan Bouchard because his wagon is hitched to the most electric fantasy hockey offense of this century, with McDavid and Draisaitl out there on that power play, the Bouch bomb, all that good stuff. And Rasmus Dahlin because he is the best stat stuffer across the board at the position, if you factor in banger categories as well.
Yeah, top 5D this year, they're all wagons. They're amazing stuff. Obviously, Cale Makar in a league of his own, but I think this is an interesting conversation because again, with Werenski, I like the potential goal total. I mean, he's going to score more goals. I think that's common sense if he stays healthy, right? And the shot total, dear God, Werenski was 3rd in the league in shots, not amongst defensemen, in the league. That's unbelievable. And I think that's kind of in his bag, maybe not 3rd overall, but maybe top 10, certainly the number 1 defenseman in terms of shooting the puck. So I really like that. Both players are amazing. I mean, Quinn Hughes, my God, I've said this a couple times already, but any chance that the Canucks had last year felt like it was orchestrated by Quinn Hughes. And if he wasn't on the ice, they weren't getting chances, right? And maybe the same could be said for Werenski. They both had such an insane kind of play driving year. But yeah, for the purposes of this conversation, I think I'm leaning Werenski just for the extra peripheral stats that he brings, the shots. He blocks more than Quinn Hughes as well. But what the heck? These guys are a couple of dancing boys. Like seriously, I mean, Hughes hit 13 people last year. I swear I saw him hit more than 13 times last year, and Werenski wasn't much better. I think, 19 hits. It's like they're actively avoiding hits. How does this happen as a defenseman? I don't even understand. But I think either way, you're loving both of these guys. What do you think, just before we move on from this one, Matt, just about these two players at this draft position? Pick 13, is this somewhere where you like to take this kind of second tier defenseman, or do you like sort of waiting a little bit longer and maybe picking up a higher end forward?
I like to wait a little bit longer. I think at this part of your draft, depending on your league size, you can still get guys that are in the potential 100-point scorer range. So that's where I'm a little bit hesitant to take a defenseman other than Cale Makar. I think I would wait until maybe at least pick 15, getting closer to pick 20 before I go for a defenseman who's not named Cale Makar.
You bet. And I think if you get one of these guys at 15 or after, I mean, that's That's a robbery. All right. That's criminal. Don't do that. Or do that if it's there. Anyways, I think we feel good about this. 2 stud defensemen. Let's move on. Okay, we're moving over to pick number 40 here. All right, we're getting into the draft. We're feeling good about ourselves. And we've got a couple of young bucks, a couple of young pivots. Tim Stützle, and Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks. Which way you rolling here?
This is a fun one. I thought it was an easy choice, but then I kind of crunched the numbers and I thought, okay, this is a better debate than I first realized. I still lean toward Timmy Stützle for a few reasons. One, he's still only 23 years old. So yes, Macklin Celebrini is a kid, but Stützle's still a kid as well. He still theoretically hasn't had his best season yet. And I think we have to consider that a point per game season for Tim Stützle is disappointing right now, according to the standard he set a couple years ago, where he hit 90 points and it felt like he was on a rocket ship. He was going to be a 100-point scorer, first round pick in fantasy. It felt like he was going that way. So relative to those expectations, point per game production for him is a disappointment. Whereas Macklin Celebrini, he could improve by 15, 20 points, and that would get him only to the level that Stützle's already at right now. So again, it's the floor ceiling thing. A tremendous step forward for Celebrini would only get him to the level that Stützle's already at. And Stützle still has room to improve. If he can get his shot volume up, start scoring some more goals, I think he can creep back up into the 90-point range. We also have to factor in that he's a banger league beast. He's a good bet every year for at least 100 hits. And that also tips the scales in his favor.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I agree with you. I thought this would be a fun one because I was looking at your top 300 and I was trying to identify like players that we might be able to have a discourse on. And this is one of those because also Celebrini is being drafted pretty high and it's a risky pick. I'll definitely say that. Like pick 40, you're banking on a sophomore season here for a guy on an incredibly bad team. Right. But, that said, I think I'm taking Celebrini here. I really like the underlying metrics with Celebrini. And I feel like I'm not saying he's a better player per se. What he probably is. He probably will be in his career. But, and I love Timmy Stützle. But is it weird to say that I like the offensive environment a little better in San Jose? Like, is that weird to say? Or maybe not the environment, maybe not the whole team, but Celebrini's line and role and kind of the way his role in that offense when he's out there. Like one of the things I noticed with Ottawa is under Travis Green, they've really shored up the defense, right? That needed to happen. They were, really porous out there, but I think that came at the price of like some creativity in the offensive zone. And I think that's something that Timmy Stützle has sort of had to deal with, right? I feel like Ottawa's really kind of gone north-south, right? A lot of rush, like one and done, or like chuck the puck at the net and everyone's banging it in, Brady Tkachuk style, right? Whereas Timmy Stützle, he's a puck possession beast. This guy should have the puck on his stick, setting up plays, setting up grade A chances. So that's something I'm a little bit concerned about. But meanwhile, in San Jose, it's like a free-for-all in the offensive zone. Like Ryan Warsofsky's like, yeah, you go to town, you get the biz, no problem. And I think he's got these guys playing a fun brand of hockey, a risky one, but pretty fun. I don't know. Like, do you think that Celebrini has this upcoming season? Do you think he has ceiling past the 74-point pace that he got last year?
I think he does. And I think you raise a bunch of good points there. I agree, by the way, about Ottawa. I think they're held back by their finishing and maybe their ability to get to those true high volume, high danger chances in great volume. I think it held them back in the playoffs, by the way. They just couldn't finish enough to get past the Leafs. And you could argue, hey, they haven't added enough to really change their environment. So it's a fair point. With Celebrini, I agree that the environment is looser. And I think he's a talented enough player that he could easily become an 80-point guy this year. If you look at some of his teammates too, like Will Smith was really strong down the stretch last year too. He's someone who I'm pretty bullish on. I think part of the decision between these two players could also depend on plus minus because, yeah, it's going to be pretty loose in San Jose, but it also means a lot of pucks are going to be going in their net. So you're probably going to get the plus minus drag, especially because Celebrini is the type of player. He's already got the intelligence that he's going to be entrusted against other teams' top players already, even at his age, which also could hurt his plus minus. There's going to be a learning curve there battling other stars and other teams, right? So I'm bullish on both Stützle and Celebrini. I love Celebrini as a player. I think he's still slightly better in real life than fantasy so far, but because of his motor, one thing I do really like about him is he's going to be a high volume shot generator for his entire career. He already did it a lot as a rookie. And I think when he gets to his prime, he's going to be a 300 plus shot a year type of player.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Something I've been using a lot for my fantasy hockey projections and just my analysis on players is Corey Schneider's microstats, all three zones. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with there, Matt, but in those metrics, Macklin Celebrini is a beast. I mean, this guy, he's in the 96th percentile in things like scoring chance assists, shot assists, and like zone entries that lead to scoring chances. And those are the things that really drive offense to me. Not that Timmy Stützle doesn't have that, but at least last season, not to the level that Macklin Celebrini was at. He was at an elite level. So I feel like Celebrini has a little bit of a bigger piece of the pie in terms of offense on that team, whereas Timmy Stützle has a much better cast around him, right? He doesn't need to do it all the way that Celebrini does. Like Celebrini also had like an 82% IPP last year at even strength. That's crazy. That's elite stuff. Like he's just in on everything, right? Where Timmy Stützle, I think, was down at 67%. Better team around him, like I said. So I think I like Celebrini for the upside here. I trust the player, and I mean the team got a little bit better. They got John Klingberg. Matt, did you know about this? They got the Klingon.
They did. Who's going to kind of probably walk into a pretty plum role? Like if you're bringing in John Klingberg on a team like that, you may as well toss him out there on PP1. So he's actually one of my favorite sleepers, just as a little aside. But I agree with your take there on Celebrini. And what's interesting is him spending a lot of time playing with Sidney Crosby at the World Championship. Great for your confidence, but also kind of playing in front of a mirror, because to me, stylistically, the closest comparison to Celebrini in terms of just how well-rounded he is, how intense he is, how many things he does well, how much he's flashed already an ability to dictate a game. It's Crosby. That's the comparison that I see between those two. I'm not saying he's going to be Crosby. Calm down, everybody. I'm just saying that is the play style comparison that I make.
I love that. I just saw a tweet today. I think it was Big Head Hockey was saying like, NHL players are comparing him to Crosby, like his career pathway, right? And maybe his ceiling is like a Crosby style career, but I think his floor is like a Barkov style career. You know what I mean? He's that good. Like he's great defensively as well. I mean, obviously he's on it's a terrible team defensively, but that's not really what they're going for at this point in their development. I'm just a big fan of the player. I do love Stützle as well. We projected Stütz for 74 points this year, which is probably pretty light. That's kind of like a floor projection for him. And then we got Macklin for 78. So that's the way we're seeing it. And big shots for Celebrini, whereas Stütz doesn't have the shot. So what do you think about that, Matt?
I think it's close. I just think, my philosophy at this point in the draft is I want the guy that I know is going to get X, as opposed to the guy we hope is going to get X. We know Timmy Stützle is going to get 74 points. We hope Macklin Celebrini is going to get 78 as a sophomore. So go safe early. That's why I lean Stützle.
That's a really good point. I think much safer pick in Stützle. And there are some ceiling cases there as well. Like this guy at even strength needs to kind of get the biz. He had a great performance on the power play last year, 33 power play points. I think that's here to stay. Something I noticed about Ottawa year after year, they lead the league in power play time on ice. That's just a weird stat. Like most penalties that they get, like power play chances, right? That's a weird thing. And you I love players on teams like that. Like that's kind of bolstered up Brady Tkachuk as well in terms of his power play points, and Drake Batherson gets a bunch of power play points. So Timmy Stützle is going to be out there, with the man advantage quite a bit. And he's a pretty elite player. I'm a big fan. And I like the B for stuff as well. The big hits, the big blocks. He Julianne's. Oh, he does it all, doesn't he, Matt?
He sure does. And, as that bonus, he's arguably the biggest flopper in the NHL. He does draw a lot of penalties as well. So he does help his own cause as long as he's not getting called for embellishment in the process.
Exactly. And a beautiful head of hair. He's no Matt Larkin, but, he's a tier down, and that's fine. Okay. Let's keep going here, Matt. Next one, we're out at pick 82 here. We're having a nice time. This is round 8, so we're kind of in the mushy middle of our drafts here. Round 6. And we got Jordan Kyrou and Lucas Raymond on Yahoo. These guys are right around the same draft position here. So who are you taking here, Matt?
Yeah, this is a really fun one because I agree that on the surface, they appear really evenly matched, almost like a coin flip. But I think the decision is clearer than maybe some believe it should be. So I will say Jordan Kyrou, very underrated. 4 years in a row where he's had between 27 and 37 goals, between 67 and 75 points. So you know what you're getting with him. He's very reliable, and I think underappreciated in fantasy. But you have to consider that Lucas Raymond, he's 4 years younger, obviously a power play demon, but he just had 80 points in his age 22 season. That's already 5 more than Jordan Kyrou's career high. Jordan Kyrou didn't even become really fantasy viable until he was 23. And Raymond only now is just going into his age 23 season. So what that tells us is you have one player in Kyrou who's very solid, reliable, and he's currently in his prime. You have Lucas Raymond, who again is a year younger. He's only now entering the season that Kyrou was when he first had his breakout. And I see a player in Raymond who is still ascending. He's not hit his peak. I think the peak's going to be more like 90 points, and I think it's going to be this season. So I think there's nice value here where two players are roughly in the same range, but one I think has a much higher ceiling right now.
Yeah, that's really good. I can't disagree with any of that. I put Kyrou and Raymond up here because I thought I was going to choose Kyrou, but obviously digging in, I was like, oh no, I can't do it. Right? It's got to be Raymond here. And even though, like, I think that Kyrou is the better fantasy asset, like all things equal. He drives play. He's a big time shooter, chance generator. He could be an efficient power play performer if he was given the same opportunity as Raymond, I think. But I don't know. You got like Raymond just had, like you said, he's a power play demon. He was tied for 4th in the league in power play points with 37. That was not on my bingo card going into the season last year. And that Detroit power play, that's actually like I've been digging in on kind of expected goals for on the power play and what actual goals happen on the power play, just to kind of see, where a regression might happen with the man advantage. And it's not coming in Detroit. I don't think. I mean, they roll the same 5 players out there. Detroit was second best in the league behind Dallas in expected goals for per 60. So, there's a reason they were so good. There's a reason that Lucas Raymond got 37 power play points. And we've given him a little bit of a haircut with power play points. We projected him for 79 points and 33 of those on the power play. But I mean, damn, that's like we've seen the ceiling case. Maybe there's more. I don't know. When your power play is driving offense that much and getting that many chances and that volume of chances, like those pucks are going to go in. And I don't think I can, in good faith, say Jordan Kyrou is the pick here. We projected him for 68 points, but I do think that we need to watch Jordan Kyrou because if he gets moved up the lineup, he's in the top 6, so that's fine. But if he gets on power play 1 with any kind of consistency, now we're looking at, I think, closer to what Raymond is possible. I think that Kyrou has point per game potential in him. It's just, I don't think he's going to get the potential to do it. So, yeah, all that said, we're going Lucas Raymond. This guy's awesome. I wish he shot a little bit more, generated individual chances a little bit more, but who cares, right? This guy's a machine on the power play. And to your point, like the age thing, it really makes a difference, right? Like he's achieved this level way earlier than Jordan Kyrou did. So, I mean, I think it's still only up from here, right? He's coming off 80-point season. He had 72 the season before, and that was with half the power play points. So this is a guy that can get 90 points, and it might happen this season. So let's get the biz with Lucas Raymond. We feel good about that, don't we, Matt?
We do. And another thing to consider is, you look at the potency of Detroit's power play, and it wasn't at that level all season. People have to remember the major spike came when Todd McLellan came in and took over as head coach midseason. Now you're getting a full season of this revamped power play under Todd McLellan. So theoretically, you could see even better production in terms of wire to wire now that the new version of the power play is installed for a full season. So that's another reason to expect continued production, maybe even a little bit better.
You bet your sweet Bippy, buddy. We love that. I'm into it. You've sold me. All right. Before we move on to the next one here, Matt, did you know that Apples and Ginos has created a fantasy hockey draft guide for 2025-26? It's unbelievable stuff, man. We got 167 pages of goodness in here, 375 plus player projections, 32 team previews, sleepers, busts, all this kind of crazy stuff. Matt, I'm going to send you a copy. Again, I know you don't need it for your analysis, but I'd love to get your 2 cents on this thing. It's a great document. So if you're interested in that, folks, patreon.com/applesginos. Get to biz on that. Matt, you ready to get to biz?
Oh, right.
I'm just going to keep saying get to biz because it's my catchphrase. All right.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel I'm workshopping some other ones in here, but yeah, I've been trying to say this one. Light the candle. Been trying to say that. Is that doing anything for you, Matt?
I like biz better. That one got me right away. I was like, ooh, that's a good catchphrase. I'm ready to go here. I'm ready to run through a wall.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's where we're at with that. All right. We're in round 8. We're looking at pick 104, and we're trying to shore up our defense. We're looking at a couple kind of prospect picks. I think these are both mild swings at this point in your draft. I think we're looking at Luke Hughes and Alexander Nikishin. Who do you like here?
Well, Blake, this was the discussion I was most excited to have because here's where I'm gonna unleash a flurry of blows. Okay, if we're talking boxing metaphor, everyone listening, I feel like the fight is fixed, and this is Blake taking a dive because this comparison is crazy to me. It's offensive toward Luke Hughes. Luke Hughes is 22 years old. He already has 2 40-point seasons under his belt. I was talking to Jack Hughes last week saying he wants his brother on PP1 in New Jersey. He was 92nd percentile in 5-on-5 primary assists per 60 minutes among defensemen last season. And we're going to compare him to a rookie who has not played in the NHL aside from a tiny little cup of coffee coming over from the KHL last year. This is insanity. And for the record, I really do like Alexander Nikishin as a prospect. He's big. He can move the puck. He was one of the most dominant KHL defensemen ever. Okay, so he is legit. Dynasty League, absolutely be all over it. But if we're comparing in a redraft format, Nikishin could get 40 points in his rookie season, and that would be a tremendous success. And that would put him in Calder Trophy contention, all that good stuff. That's what Luke Hughes is doing at worst. So they are not in the same league. I have Luke Hughes as my player number 101 on my entire board. Nikishin is not even in my top 300. So this is crazy talk.
I love this. I love getting you fired up, Matt. I remember a couple of years ago, we had Elias Pettersson at I think we was in round 4 or something. You're like, what the hell is this? No, get Pettersson out of round 4. And you were right. But it's funny. The reason these guys are together is strictly because of the Yahoo ADP, right? Luke Hughes is actually getting drafted after Alexander Nikishin on Yahoo. So it's a good conversation. This is a PSA for the folks out there because, buddy, it's Luke Hughes all day. Okay, what are we doing? I don't know if I see the chasm in between these two players as much as you, but there is some risk there with Luke Hughes. It's neat to hear that Jack Hughes wants his brother on there. That makes sense. I also think that it makes sense to have Luke Hughes on the power play in terms of his handedness, right? And what he brings to the table as opposed to Dougie Hamilton, right? Where Dougie Hamilton is, he's got a bomb. He's shooting the lights out from the back end, but shots from the blue line, those are not high danger, right? Those are low danger chances. So it's great, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even we're like, yeah, shoot the puck, bang in the rebound. Yeah, grimy hockey. You're like, that's not the way the NHL is played today. I think you want a possession guy like Luke Hughes. He's left-handed. So, I feel like Jack Hughes likes to kind of be on the left side there, kind of working there. So with Luke Hughes as a lefty, I think it makes more sense with him and Jack. So that said, Dougie is still Dougie, right? Like if you have Dougie Hamilton on your team and you're not putting him on power play 1, what are you doing? What does he do other than that, right? Luke Hughes is actually a good defenseman as well, where I think Dougie Hamilton is a good offenseman. And that's kind of what he brings to the table, right? And his ice time was down last year, Dougie Hamilton. He played under 20 minutes, which kind of stunk. But all this to say, I think Luke Hughes is going to really eat into that power play time, if not take it over entirely. I'm seeing a much bigger power play percentage share for Luke Hughes. He had 42 last year. I think he'll probably be up around 60 this year, maybe 58, 60%, because you still have Dougie there, right? And we have to respect that. But in terms of Nikishin, I love the peripherals, right? What he's going to bring here, this guy's going to be an absolute unit, a total beefcake, right? Hitting and blocking like a machine. And I know Nate, my partner, the guy I work with here, he loves Nikishin. I think he would choose Luke Hughes in this scenario as well. But there's some potential there for this guy, especially if he's able to take over the power play from Shane Gostisbehere. I think that it's kind of a similar situation. In Carolina, you have Shane Gostisbehere and you're not putting him on the power play. Like, what are you doing with him then? Right? Because he's not a great defenseman. Whereas I think Nikishin might be a minute muncher here coming into the season, giving us some good periffs and stuff. So all that to say, Luke Hughes, he's our boy. All right. But this is a PSA for the folks out there. You're on Yahoo. Do not take Nikishin over Luke Hughes. Luke Hughes has blast off potential. What do you think his ceiling might be if everything goes well, Matt?
I think the ceiling for Luke Hughes this season is probably like a 10-goal, 60-point season. So I think a solid step forward, even just if all the Devils forwards have healthy seasons wire to wire. They were so snake bitten last year and also the year before with these injuries. So if you get Luke Hughes, like you said, a bigger piece of the power play pie, and you just have healthy forwards for the majority of the season, I think that alone, plus his natural progression as he gets better, he's getting more used to being in the NHL. I think that will push him forward to close to that all-star level caliber in terms of his output. And with Nikishin too, I think you make a good point about Ghost Bear because that he is sort of that one trick pony, and if you have him, that's what you use him for, right? He's the rich man's Tony D'Angelo, if you will.
Love
And
that.
with Nikishin, I think it's more likely he fills the Dmitry Orlov role, which is the kind of well-rounded guy who can do a little bit of everything. Maybe PP2, he's playing in the top 4, he's playing in different situations. So I think that's more likely what we see in year 1 from Nikishin.
Great stuff, Matt. Totally agree with you. Let's move on. We got to talk about some spicy tendies. Oh yeah, we're in the 0G round here, and this to me, it's a 0G, like the early part of 0G. So you're looking at maybe like round 10, round 11. You can probably find one of these tendies and see what you want to do here. So it's probably our first goaltender. We're looking at Juuse Saros, the Juice Tiger, and Sam Montembeault of the Montreal Canadiens, or the improved Montreal Canadiens. Who do you like here?
Well, it's funny. I'm distracted because just the animation of Montembeault. I think he headed over to Applebee's and had a few too many juicy tendies. But I'm glad we get a chance to talk about Montembeault, because to me, there's a trifecta of 0G heroes this season, and they're all in very similar situations. Sam Montembeault, Karel Vejmelka, and Lucas Dostal. All 3 goalies are on teams that I think are ascending. All 3 goalies had just okay surface numbers, but played really well on teams that played poor defensive hockey. And in all of those situations, I think the teams, because they're going to get better, you're going to see the rate stats improve, the win totals go up. So I love all 3. And in this case, I do love Montembeault a lot more than Saros. Yes, I know the Predators weren't as bad under the hood as their record was last season. There was a bit of bad luck. But if you look at the way the team is built right now, the players they're relying on the most are all 30-something players who are trending in the wrong direction, whether it's Roman Josi, who obviously has health concerns, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. So that core, it's just a bit of an old core. Yes, Nashville's breaking in some prospects. They're on the way, guys like Brady Martin, but that generation's not quite ready to catch up to the veteran group. So I think this team is going to stay down this year in a really tough Central Division, right? So on the other hand, you have Montreal, who's added Noah Dobson to a D-core that really needed help just in terms of overall play driving. So that should help in terms of the quality of chances being directed at Sam Montembeault, and also the quantity. And then even Ivan Demidov, that's just a huge get to have a full season of him, and it's going to help push your team's win total up. So I'm very bullish on the Habs overall this season. I think this is the year they kind of really seize control in the Atlantic and become better than a wildcard team. So I could see Montembeault winning 5 games, 7 games more than Juuse Saros as just one more tiebreaker.
I love that. That's a really interesting take, and it's compelling actually, because I would choose Saros, but it's not a dunk. It's like, yeah, we're looking at 2 goaltenders that might be heading in different directions, right? Obviously, Saros to me has been like, this is a guy that used to be in the top 5 goalies for fantasy hockey, and it was a really bad year, obviously. It's funny you mentioned that. We've been saying this all year. The Preds were bad, but they were also unlucky. I think that that should be the team's slogan going into the year. They're trying to sell seasons tickets, like, just put that out there, like, hey, we were bad, but also unlucky. Please buy seasons tickets. Do you think that would work as a promo there, Matt?
I mean, it's the best thing you can do right now, because overall you haven't really added that much. So why not go for it?
It's honest. All right. And people appreciate that. All right. The Nashville Predators, very authentic team. But yeah, Saros' first half last year, he was doing his best, right? He was the Saros of old. The environment in front of him, terrible, right? We saw what happened. And then last half of the season, they couldn't really get it together. But I believe that Saros is who we think he is. And I'm fairly certain that he's going to bounce back statistically. And I think Nashville will as well. Like, are we buying that Nashville is actually just a bad team now? After last season, going into the year, we're like, this team just won the offseason. This is insane, right? To me, when I dug in on Nashville, it seemed to me that the problem was there was a lack of coaching adjustments, right? Like you said, we have older guys, and just because they're older doesn't mean they're worse, but they're not the type of guys that want to play this grimy style where you rush it in and you're battling on the boards. Like, these are puck possession guys. Steven Stamkos wants the puck on his stick. He doesn't want to have to dump it in and go get it, right? Like, these are offensive guys. So I don't know. What are your thoughts there? Like, because like you said, they weren't that bad statistically under the hood. They were bad, but again, they were also really unlucky. And the players on the team, like Stamkos, had the worst statistical career or statistical season of his career in all metrics. A lot of the players did. Roman Josi was out. I mean, I feel like Nashville is still in contention for like a wild card spot. I don't think they're going to fall off a cliff just like they did last year. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. They're one of the more confounding teams for me because I was pretty high on them a year ago, especially in fantasy. I had Juuse Saros as potential number one goalie overall, given his situation I thought was improving. But a year later, I do look at it a little differently. I see a team that really had trouble gelling in terms of integrating its new players. I see a team whose best player, one of the best players in its franchise history, Roman Josi, his health is still a question mark, even though I did hear from Brady Shea last week that he's looking good skating going into the season. So I see a team that they're a little bit old. I don't think they have a true superstar right now, if Yossi is not himself, that can carry them. And if you look at that central division, it's just really tough, right? I think if there's a team that's making a big climb in the central, it's going to be Utah. They improved from 77 to 89 points last year. And I think so that's just one more example of another team that's getting much more competitive. And I just don't see Nashville ascending and taking that rung in the ladder back, right? So which teams in that division are worse than Nashville? Chicago? That's the only one that I can say for sure is worse than Nashville, right? So I'm not overly excited about their prospects, even though I don't think they're a terrible hockey team.
So weird. What a difference a year makes, hey? Like we were all just so jacked. For me, one of the things too I like about Saros is because we have proof of concept. But Montembeault, like this guy had to catch bullets in his teeth for basically the entirety of the year last year, and they snuck into the playoffs on the back of that, right? But digging in on sort of their expected goals against metrics, they were dead last in the league. The Canadians at 5-on-5, dead last. But Montembeault had an amazing season, right? So do you feel like they're that much better just with the addition of Dobby, Noah Dobson? I like Harry Potter, Dobby.
Yeah.
I'll put a sound drop in there. It all makes sense, Matt. Don't worry. But yeah, do you think that Noah Dobson is going to shore up like that dead last in the league expected goals against, like because they played kind of a fire wagon brand of hockey at times last year?
Yeah, well, it's funny. You know why I was reacting strangely to the Dobby reference? Because I wasn't sure if you were going Dobby or if you were talking about backup goaltender Jacob Dobesh or Dobe. I don't remember how to pronounce his name. That's why I was like, wait, which player is he talking about?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing in the context of Montembeault. If you look at the horrible defensive play he had in front of him last year, he still was a viable fantasy goalie in spite of that. And he still played on a team that made the playoffs and was able to get him enough wins to be fantasy relevant. So again, I mean, I know I'm constantly talking about floor and ceiling, but that established what the floor is. If the Habs even improve to middle of the road, if they're just a top 20 team defensively, then does that mean Montembeault is going to have a 915 save percentage? Is Montembeault going to win 40 games? Is Montreal going to be a 100-point team with that incremental improvement defensively? Because offensively, we see them on the rise as well. So I see that as a positive in this case. If they were still good and useful in fantasy when they were that flawed, well, theoretically, I think they should improve when you add a number one defenseman in Noah Dobson to the fray.
Yep. There's only one way to go when you're at the bottom of something, right? You got to go up. So
Yeah.
I like that. I like that take a lot. I think both these goalies, I'd be happy with either of them here, in and around like 100, 110, 120, 130. Like it's good stuff. They're both going to be workhorses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, great stuff. I love that conversation. Shout out to Montembeault's picture there. That's what he looks like. You know what I mean? I looked at a few different pictures and I'm like, yeah, that's just what Montembeault looks like. He's a very attractive man. Beautiful jawline. Let's move on. Okay, we're going to the sleeper round here, Matt. All right, this is good stuff. We want to talk about some sleepers, and I might put you on the spot. I know you've mentioned a couple already, but I'd love to hear one or two sleepers that you kind of are into this year, just for our listeners, if you're into that. But let's talk about these two units right here. We're talking about Tyler Seguin and Frank Nazar of the Chicago Blackhawks. For your sleeper, last couple picks, who are you taking?
Well, this is a fun one because it kind of puts me on the spot in the sense that I didn't realize I have these two back to back in my rankings right now. And just off the top of my head, I say, okay, I think I go Frankie Nazar. But then I look and I actually have Seguin above him. So that tells me I need to flip them in my rankings the next time I do an update. Because to me, it comes down to how many games is Tyler Seguin going to play? Last year, he was better than a point per game. Last year, he played 20 games. So you have Frank Nazar, who is an ascendant talent. Obviously, he's on a bad team, but he's got a lot of potential. I think you could see him maybe become a 50-point player this year. He had 9 points, 5 goals, 9 points in 8 games to close out the year. So the young talent is starting to improve around him. And to me, even if he's just a 50-point guy, well, he's a 50-point player, and then Seguin could be a point per game player, but a point per game might be 30 points in 30 games. So do you want 30 points or 50 points? And just based on the expected volume and health, I go with Frank Nazar. And then that doesn't even factor in the idea that he might totally break out and just be straight up worth Seguin more on a per game basis. That would be a bonus. Before we even bring that into the equation, just the health factor makes me wary of Tyler Seguin.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I mean, you're picking your sleeper. These are both could be throwaway picks, right? You're not risking anything to pick these guys up. I do like Seguin's. Like he obviously had a great season last year, playing on that third line with Mason Marchment there. Who's the center? I'm gapping on the center. Who else did he play with? It was Seguin, Marchment, and
well, it was either Matt Duchene or Wyatt Johnson.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Duchene.
Yeah.
Duchene's been tooting in my face ever since I started doing fantasy hockey. Yeah, I don't even like the guy's just awesome now. I don't even care. So I'm going to start shouting Matt Duchene's name from the rooftops, and he's finally going to fall off. That's fine. But I think I like Tyler Seguin's potential line mates this year better. I think he's with Wyatt Johnston and Matt Duchene again. So I think that's an upgrade over there over Mason Marchment, right? But he's not going to get power play one time, so it is going to cap him there. I think I'm going Nazar here, though, just for the pure upside, right? Like Chicago doesn't have anyone else that they really need to spotlight, right? They need to lean into the youth movement here. My one hope is that Nazar gets to play with Bedard, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. I think they're kind of earmarking him for a 2C there, which makes sense. He did play with Bedard last year, but I mean, they have to without him at 2C. Like, who are they putting up there? Jason Dickinson? Like,
yeah. That's right. No. I think great teams need to be built up the middle, and especially with Anton Frundell deciding to stay in Sweden another year, you got to spread the love, and especially when you didn't really add much in terms of veteran help in the offseason. So you got to try Nazar driving his own line.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I just like the underlines too with Frank Nazar. Like, this guy's a transition ace. I mean, it's one of those things when a young player comes in and has the ability to enter the zone at will, right? Set up chances, help the team in transition. That's something that sticks. That's something that they are going to have for their whole career. It's not something they're going to have to develop. So he can develop the other parts of his game, but in terms of offensive chance generation, I think he's getting there, right? He's an offensive player. That's absolutely what they need. And I think he has a really good shot at power play one where Tyler Seguin doesn't, right? I think it makes sense to me to have Frank Nazar on power play one. Chicago's power play last year, pretty darn good in actual goals scored, that like they were really efficient. The expected goals, not great, right? So I feel like there's potential for a little bit of drop off for that Chicago power play. But I mean, maybe a guy like Frank Nazar comes in and starts generating more chances, right? And Sam Rinzel, who do you think is going to quarterback the top power play there in Chicago? Sam Rinzel or I mean, Korchinski or Levshunov? Like, what do you think? Or the pickle, Alex Vlasic? What do you think?
I think it's going to be Sam Rinzel. And I was talking to Connor Bedard last week, just what he thought about the new guys coming in, Levshunov and Rinzel. And I think his words were something on the lines of, anytime a kid can come right in out of college and dump onto PP1, it's pretty impressive. I think Rinzel has exceeded everybody's expectations by a mile. We knew that Levshunov was sort of the incoming prodigy on the blue line. Korchinski's kind of falling into that, wait, is he not going to be a thing type of bucket? He's been leapfrogged by those two on the depth chart. And Rinzel, like, he was playing top pair. It was pretty seamless, effortless almost for him down the stretch. So I think he's going to get the first crack this year for sure.
I love to hear that. I had a good conversation with Nate here on Apples and Ginos. He thinks it's going to be Levshunov. I said Rinzel, and I stand by that. I think he might be a better offensive defenseman. I think he is, actually. And then Levshunov may be the better all-around defenseman.
Yeah, that's what I see so far as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's good to hear. I love getting that insider information. That's something I don't get a lot of, and I need more of. Someone who's actually talking to the players and like, yeah, oh, he said that? Oh, great. All right. Because I am a big believer in some of these narratives. I don't know, maybe to a fault, but I hear some of these stories. I'm like, okay, now I'm getting excited about that player, right? So that's good to hear. So yeah, we're taking Nazar here. We're taking him to the bank, and we feel good about that. Yeah, so that's it for our sleep around. Oh, look, yeah, Matt. you definitely, I get on over to YouTube and see. I've been defeated. Yeah, Matt, just again, same thing. Just wailed on me, mercilessly, as we've said, and that's very hurtful, Matt. But I'll definitely have you back. I don't want to wait a whole year. I got to get you on in season, my man, because this is a lot of fun. What are you doing for fantasy this year? Like, how many teams you going? You got your regular league there, and are you just in the one league, or are you going to do some more?
I've really changed over the years. And it's sort of like I take you could call it an adrenaline junkie approach. And someone might think that means I'm in a million leagues. No, it's the opposite. I'm in one league because I like the stakes of like, no, this is my franchise. I'm the general manager. I get one chance at a championship every year. I lost in my dynasty league by 3 hits. I had Braden McNabb and Keegan Colasar, the final game in the year on the Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern start, stayed up till 1 a.m. I needed 3 hits from Braden McNabb and Keegan Colasar, who usually get 10 combined in their sleep. I didn't get them, and I lost the championship. So I'm still not recovered from that, but that's fun. That was my only chance. So that's how I play it. I use everything, all my information, and put it towards a single league because I like the simulation feel in terms of being a real GM, if you want to call it that.
Oh man, that sounds brutal. Fantasy hockey can be so cruel. You know what I mean? Like 3 hits, and when you've got the horses, that's painful. That's a bad beat, my man. I'm sorry. I took so many bad beats last year. I was in 9 leagues, and my points for in pretty much every league is like top 3. So I had great seasons, but my points against was also in the top 3 in a lot of those spots where I'm just taking bad beats on a Sunday. You know what I mean? So I don't know what I'm going to do this year. I think I just got to regress to the mean, right, Matt? Does that make sense to you?
I think so. Theoretically, if you're consistently putting up a lot of points, it should reward you sooner or later. Or you can end up like me and your opponent can get 8 blocks from Alex Carrier in the second last game of the season and flip the blocks category on you. It happens. What can you do? What can you do? 8 blocks from one player. How could I have predicted that? I thought I had the category locked up in my head-to-head.
This is terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. All right. That's very hurtful. I'm feeling the pain for you. All right. But hopefully this ADP battle, the drubbing that you just put on me here, makes you feel a little bit better. Matt, before I let you go, I would love to hear any of your thoughts on just maybe a player or a couple players that you're really interested in at the back end of your drafts.
Sure. Yeah. A couple quick sleepers, depending on league size. I really like Marco Casper this year. Regardless of where he's playing, he broke out in the second half when he briefly was on the top line. Then he really flourished on the second line between Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. That's where I think he's going to start the year. And if you look at the pace in that second half of the season, you got a player who's going to get 25 goals, 55 points, 150 hits. So a nice combo meal king. And I don't think he's a household name yet. So I really like him. I think you got to watch Jet Greaves really closely. He was unbelievable down the stretch. I think he probably won people their leagues in some deep league formats, right? Who streamed him during his incredible heater. It's just the fact that Elvis Merzlikins, we know who he is. He's had a million shots at that catbird seat. And I think Columbus is going to give Greaves a chance to win the job. And that's a team on the rise. So he could be someone who becomes a top 15, top 20 goalie. And I think you can still get him very, very late in drafts. I did say Mackie Samoskevich already. I would keep an eye on Jimmy Snuggerud in St. Louis. He is a highly pedigreed prospect. They really trust him. They threw him right into a scoring line role late in the season after he turned pro. They gave him big minutes in the playoffs. And I think they just fully expect him to be a key part of their offense right now. There's a reason they were so comfortable making that kind of head-scratching trade, except with Zach Balduke going to Montreal, because they really feel like Snuggerud is established in their top 6. So that's another sleeper that I really like.
Those are all bangers, buddy. I love the Marco Casper one. I streamed him in for the back third of my season in my bangers league. It was great. The guy is awesome, and he popped off. So I really hope that's the line that he's placed with as well. Patrick Kane and DeBrincat, that really worked out well, and I think he can bring a lot for fantasy. All of those, like Jimmy Snuggerud, we call him Jimmy Snuggles because we didn't know how to say his name at first, and now so yeah, Jimmy Snuggles, probably not the first. All right, we're not the most creative people over here, but I love when they put a rookie in or a young prospect and give him big minutes right off the bat, because that tells me that he has the coach's confidence, right? It's not just a situation where you're like, well, you're good, we drafted you high, go out and play 18 minutes. It's like, no, you have to earn that time, especially with a coach like Jim Montgomery, right? So he's putting him out for big minutes. I'm here for it. So great sleepers. Matt, thank you so much for your service. Really appreciate having you here. Why don't you tell us what we can expect from you, Daily Faceoff, this season coming up here, and where we can find you on the socials?
Absolutely. And first, I want to say thanks for having me, Blake. And I want to say you're too hard on yourself. I think this was a split decision, maybe even a draw. You made some great arguments. And I just want to put that out there. I'm sure that the listeners or viewers will agree. In terms of fantasy stuff, I have my top 300 on Daily Faceoff right now. And of course, driving the bus with fantasy at Daily Faceoff is our managing fantasy editor, Brock Sagan. He's got that draft kit humming right now. We have consensus top 300. We have sleepers, must drafts, ADPs to avoid, all that great stuff from a bunch of different fantasy authors. So I'm just one cog in that machine. In terms of my main home, I'm over at the news side of Daily Faceoff, and we're just cranking out stories. I was at the Player Media Tour last week, so lots of different interviews with star players coming out in the days to come. dailyfaceoff.com.
Oh, yeah. This guy jacks you up. Oh, my God. I love Daily Faceoff. I'm there every day. I love the line combo tool, and I love the reporting as well. So you're doing some great work over there, man. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, listeners. All right. It's been a great time here with Matt. If you could, please join the Apples and Ginos Discord community. Link is in the description. Head on over to YouTube, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. Help us out with the algorithm. All right. Yeah. Anybody seen Terminator 2? All right. This is like Cyberdyne, right? You know what I'm talking about here, Matt?
Of course, Miles Davis.
Yeah, that's
Miles
right. Miles Davis
is a jazz musician, but you know what I'm talking about.
Miles Bennett Dyson. Yeah, I'm there for it. Okay. Also check out the Apples and Ginos Patreon. That's fine. But that's it, folks. Hopefully this episode helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Also, all 3 zones and advancedhockeystats.com, terrific paid resources. Many thanks to my brother for creating the music for the podcast. But that's it, folks. Celebrate your day. Bye for now.